Hi, everybody. I'd like to start out by asking anyone who has a dog here to raise your hand. Everybody hear a bark? Woof, woof. I'm here to speak for the dogs and for the cats because they don't have a representative at this event. So, in all the debate about the issues with the health scares that have happened from eating animals eating treats from certain import sources, in particular China, there has been no real standpoint of saying what are our ethics as to how we feed animals. Why are we using a different standard as to how we feed animals than humans? If there's anyone who doubts that if a product was making people sick and some of them were dying and they were all consuming the same product, do you think that we would go 7 years and say, well, let's just keep selling it until we figure it out, or do you think we'd kind of stop? So if a dog were to ask me what my opinion is, why this is happening, I would say it's about politics. It's the politics of an ethical lapse in how we perceive the obligation we have to animals, and it's also the politics of debt and international finance. And I'm afraid that what has happened is the political will to protect our animals is so weak that we are allowing animals to die while we figure out what's going on with them. So what is really going on with these treats? The big thing that we're hearing is nobody knows what's the problem. Well, on the one inspection tour, which was not an inspection, it was a tour that was allowed for the USDA and FDA to visit plants, the record keeping was very inaccurate in terms of glycerin usage. And one thing that we don't discuss very often is that these treats are consistently irradiated for food safety. Now, irradiation does indeed kill pathogens like E. coli, salmonella, prevents insect growth, but the combination of irradiation and the use of glycerin, which is not a food ingredient, it's a manufactured byproduct of the saponification of soap or the distillation of ethanol. Has anyone done studies as to how irradiation impacts glycerin in a formulation? The answer is no, not one. If someone has one, I'd like them to bring it to me. So we're saying that there's nothing that we can point to, but yet we have so many factors. Instead of one smoking gun, there's a whole cabinet full of issues. We also don't inspect the sources of where the meats come from themselves. If an American manufacturer had a product that was making animals ill, the plants would be covered with federal agents in seconds. But we can't even go to where the initial ingredients come from before they get to the plants, let alone to the plants themselves. We have no ability whatsoever to oversee, so it becomes a factor of trust. Now, our animals don't trust us anymore because we're showing that we don't actually maintain the stewardship and the guardianship over them that we are obliged to. So therefore, we're losing a spiritual bond with our animals by allowing them to eat foods that are substandard. Now, I want to take it to one more level, which is that this is not about Chinese treats. It's not about one country. It's about an entire attitude. There are ingredients that we use in the United States every single day in pet food and treats that do not belong in them. Things like ethylene glycol, propylene glycol, titanium dioxide, every kind of artificial color known to man. So I believe that this dialogue needs to be elevated to a higher level, not just what's going on with these treats, which, by the way, we have a great way to stop this. Stop buying them. Consumers can stop this tomorrow, okay? So we don't need to have some government agency come in with a white hat and, the cavalry to rescue our animals. Stop using products that are hurting animals, and the products won't have a market anymore. But in the meantime, let's look at our own industry. Let's be honest about what we feed our pets. Let's say, if you can't pronounce it, maybe it shouldn't be in your pet's food. Let's say if it doesn't comport at all with the diet of an omnivorous carnivore, why would we feed a 90% grain flour diet to a dog or a cat? The answer is it's malpractice. It's spiritual, nutritional malpractice. So my position as the owner of Clear Conscience Pet is to represent the animals in an industry where they don't get a voice. And what I want all of you to remember as you go home today, if you have dogs or cats, think of them as your children and think about the fact that without your guidance and judgment, they don't have a chance. They're depending on us. And what they say to me is that We've given you our all. All we want is decent food to eat, okay? So how do we get to a decent food model for animals? Well, it starts by building from zero. Let's start with the premise that we're going to feed animals healthy, safe foods that are proportioned properly for their species. Sounds pretty obvious, but we have fed dogs especially more like cattle or horses for the last 40 or 50 years in this country. So the next part of this that I want to convey to you is that there is a form of McCarthyism that's happening right now in the industry. And as the owner of a company that manufactures phenomenally healthy treats, and all I can tell you is that our products are very well respected. We work really hard to make them. All of a sudden I'm seeing a new trend. It's, well, prove to us that your stuff's not poison too. And it's kind of like McCarthyism in the sense, like, prove that you're not a communist, prove that you're not a wife beater, child molester. And it's actually pervading the dialogue in our industry. And the FDA actually came out and said, treats are a treat, animals don't even need them. So wait a minute, we've just gone from having one source of a problem that we've identified that every animal that was sick ate that product, and we're using that to create an all-sweeping condemnation of an industry. But the most fun thing about this of all is that it's creating a groundswell of interest in lots of new regulations for the American pet food and treat industry. Now, those regulations will not be enforceable overseas, but what they will do is create great layers of new bureaucracy that will prevent small companies like mine from innovating, while the mega national corporations that rule this industry will grow and prosper, because they're all about paperwork, and it doesn't matter if they're using horrible ingredients, as long as they can keep records for 1,000 years, they'll be in good shape. So if you want innovation, if you want healthy, natural foods, don't look to the government. Look to your own common sense. Look to your animals as your children, as that you're the custodian of. You're their guardian. You don't own them. You share your life with them, and I want you to, every day that you put a food or a treat in their mouths, and by the way, treats are an important part of the diet. If you woke up at 6 o'clock this morning and you weren't allowed to have anything to eat until 8 o'clock tonight, how would you feel right now? Would you be dragging a little bit? Dogs, cats, they deserve between meal snacks. A treat is not something that you do for a trick. It's this mentality that we are like so much smarter than our animals, and it's really not true. We're proving it to be false every day. So use common sense, feed your animals as you would your children and yourself, and don't buy things that kill them. Thank you.